Hi, Abdul. It's so great to have you on, and I'm really pleased because I know when I first had this idea, you were really enthusiastic about it, and that just means so much to me. And we've had so many different conversations, and when we do, I always learn something from you. So I'm really excited to have you on and to hear what you've got to say today.
Thank you, Felicia. It's a pleasure to be here. We've spoken in the past, and it's always an experience talking to you. So I guess it's a two-way process. So I'm quite happy to be here. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. And so, for anybody who doesn't know me, my name's Felicia Jones. I'm a nutritionist and a stress management trainer. And I've known Abdul for quite a while. We met when I was a speaker and a risk assessor for Diabetes UK. And we've, as I said, had interesting talks. Abdul invited me onto his radio show, and I did a nutrition segment which was really interesting. And I really enjoyed that. So, as we've said, we've had these kind of conversations before. And so today we're having another conversation. So today is about health and well-being, but really focusing on stress. And I'm going to be asking Abdul some questions. He's going to hopefully be telling us more about his journey, his health journey, and really understanding the mechanisms of stress, how that happened in his life and how he overcame that and what he does now. So, Abdul, before we really dive into that, I just wanted to hear a little bit about what you're doing now in life, particularly your work with Diabetes UK, because I'm always interested in that, and your radio show. If you can tell us a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Well, as far as Diabetes UK are concerned, it's the major part of my life really, and on the basis that I see it as they saved my life or guided me towards. By the way, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes back in 2000, and I knew nothing about diabetes at the time. And it was Diabetes UK who helped me understand and helped me overcome my fears and ignorance, if you like. Excuse me. Uh, so stress wise, I'll get to stress in a minute, but currently I'm doing, last year I did a 1 million step challenge for Diabetes UK, which actually I did 1.7 million just over, and managed to raise just over £1,000 for them.
Right.
So and this year now preparation is there now for this year's challenge as well. So I have to, since I started doing the challenge last year, I've been trying to keep up my minimum of 10,000 steps a day. And this morning I just done 6,000 steps, and I'm hoping to do another 6,000 in the afternoon. So that's my trying to remain physically active,
Yeah.
because one of the things is when I talk to people, I don't believe in, you got to lead by example, and if I'm not fit myself, I can't say to other people, you
Sure.
must do some exercise. And so I try and do that, and for my own obviously personal health reasons as well. There are lots of activities I'm involved in for Diabetes UK. There are about 3 or 4 different projects that I'm working on with them. And also, as you know, you mentioned about my radio show.
Yeah, yeah.
I do this every Sunday evening. There's a radio show for Pendle Community Radio, and I hope it's okay to mention the name. I'd like to plug
What
in.
I'll do afterwards, I'm going to put the links underneath. So if anybody wants to access them, then they
Excellent.
can. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Yeah, and so that's where I interview. And we've on top of that also I've been working for our local radio Ramadan, which happens obviously during Ramadan every year, and that's going to start around about the middle of April this year. And I'm presenting 2 different shows on that in a week. One is called the Urdu show, and one is the health show. The health show is in English. And so obviously, try and get the relevant guests to come in and talk about, health issues that people may have.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's keeping me pretty busy. So in between, excuse me, in between, if the odd interpreting job arrives, then I try and take that. Although obviously because of the current situation, I try not. I come in the high risk category,
Oh,
so I don't often go on the sites, but sometimes jobs are from home, so I can do that. But most of my 95% of my time is actually spent volunteering. So
But you
here
know,
we are.
what's brilliant is just hearing how much you're involved in, and particularly hearing. I know because we've talked about it before, your journey and where you were before. And so, can we go into that a little bit? Just going back to when you were diagnosed, around that time, what was actually happening for you, and
Yeah.
you know whether you recognised the symptoms. You know, really what was going on for you.
Yeah, well, there were two major reasons, really. I think because for anybody who's not aware, generally speaking, there are about three different reasons. One is if you've got a weight issue, if you're obese, overweight, then you are at a high risk.
Yeah,
And the other is that it's if there's a family history of diabetes, then you're at a high risk.
yeah,
Um, and the third one is stress, which has actually been officially recognised now over the past 20 odd years, since around about the time I was diagnosed. Because first of all, I didn't have a weight problem,
uh-huh.
and there was no history in my family of anybody else, in my parents, grandparents, as far back as I could go, of having diabetes. So I was the first person.
Yeah,
Since then, some of my siblings have had it, but their issue is weight. Every one of them has a weight issue, so that's part of the reason. But stress in my life was a major thing. I had two different issues going on. One was in my personal life. There were a lot of family life. There were a lot of bad things happening, and the other was in my job. I used to work as a computer consultant, so as a freelancer. So I used to be traveling at different sites every day,
yeah,
sometimes doing up to about a 200-mile return journey. So my annual mileage would be like 50-60,000 miles, and of course that meant being constantly behind a wheel on the motorways, and getting stuck in queues, and stress at work, and so on and so forth. So I think it just took its toll. I had no idea what diabetes was, so when I was diagnosed, I actually ended up in hospital with stomach pains, and
uh-huh.
my GP thought it might be appendicitis, but when they got there, it wasn't actually. It was just an abscess I had. They gave me antibiotics for that, and that was cleared up within a matter of days. But the during that period, when they did a blood test and tested me for diabetes, they informed me then that I had diabetes.
It's been pretty surprising because you said you
it
didn't have
it
weight issue, you didn't have a family history.
Yeah, yeah, and not only that, at the time I didn't know what diabetes was, to be honest, and what caused it. The only thing I knew was that people said if you have diabetes, you're not allowed sweets. So that's all I knew, which subsequently turned out not to be the case anyway. It's got nothing to do with sweets,
Yeah,
but one of the three reasons I've explained to you. So anyway, while I was in hospital, when I left, they said to me that I need to be on insulin, and so I would have to inject myself for the rest of my life, and that was really not something that I was willing to accept, because if there's one phobia I had, that was needles. I just could not bear the sight of a needle, and for me it was a case of how am I going to survive,
yeah,
but I mean, the hospital staff, and one nurse in particular, she was so lovely. She came to me and she said, look, I've been working as a nurse for 30 years. She said, I've never come across anybody who says they don't have fear of needles, but you've got no choice. So
yeah,
you're going to have to learn, and I'll help you learn. And so the next 2 days, every time she was free, she came to me and spoke to me and explained and gave me the syringe just to hold in my hand, and so on and so forth. And eventually I managed to do it, and I was on insulin for about a year when I came back out of the hospital after 2 weeks. But I used to get a cold sweat every time, half an hour or so before I needed to inject myself, and I had to do it twice a week. So I'm desperately trying to get out of having to inject myself,
yeah,
even though they said to me that you'll have to stay on insulin for the rest of your life. So I spent that whole year reading a lot of literature on the internet, and getting books on diabetes, talking to various medical experts, and so on. And when I went for my checkup at the end of the year, My average was really good, the blood glucose levels, and they said to me, so I said, can I come off insulin? And the doctor, he said, look, you can have a break for about 3 months, but I must warn you, it doesn't usually work. Tablets don't work once you've been on insulin. So he said, but I will give you a break. So 3 months, he said, you can go on, and then let's see how things go from there. Well, that was 2001. I didn't actually go back on insulin till 2013. So, and that was because I tried all the other, medications. And the thing about diabetes, it's a progressive disease. So whatever you do, you have to do more of, because over the years, less and less insulin is being produced in your system. And so, but I didn't want to go back on insulin, but I had no choice. By 2013, there was nothing else around into the tablets that was going to help me. So, sorry.
And how do you think stress played a role in you either, exacerbating your condition or really kind of just making it worse, really?
Well, stress is certainly what happens is when you're stressed, your brain, is obviously under pressure, because that's what stress is about. Yeah, your mind is under pressure, and the net result of that is it has to function more, and so what happens is that your liver starts producing more and more glucose to try and cope up with that energy.
Yeah.
And what it doesn't realize is that on the other side you've got insulin, your pancreas, doing overtime to try and combat that high level of glucose. Yeah. And eventually the insulin, the pancreas packs up, and so it either starts producing little insulin or none at all. But it's not enough in any case to cope with the blood glucose levels to neutralize that. And therefore stress has a direct impact on your diabetes. And as I said, in my case, that was a problem. But once I had realized what it was, I had to think, well, what do I do? How do I get rid of this stress? And I analyzed my own, daily routine and what was going on in the background and so on and so forth. And I came to the conclusion really that there's two types of stress. One is the one that you can detach yourself from. So two people, for example, having an argument, and when you know that you've exhausted all your argument and they're still not convinced, then the best thing is to move away from that.
Yeah.
Stop arguing, just move on, Yeah. And the other is if you're stuck. I gave an example of in a motorway queue, there's nothing you can do about it. It's going to take as long as it's going to take. Yeah. So by getting stressed and panicking, you're not going to gain anything. All that's going to happen is going to increase more blood glucose levels, and so your blood glucose levels go up, and that's you're going to do more damage to your entire body. All organs are affected by high blood glucose levels.
But what made it stick for you? What was it that actually made you actually recognize that and change the behavior?
Well, recognizing it was on the realization that I didn't have a weight issue, and I didn't have a family history. Right. So the third thing would had to be, by power of elimination, it had to be stress. What I did was I said that I was suffering both types of stress. Yeah. Where one was when you got family issues and you're not going to move, you're not going to win. Then you detach yourself. So I detached myself from that issue altogether. And the other, in terms of stress on the motorway and so on, I changed my career. I was an IT consultant, as I said at the time. So I became an interpreter. So interpreting meant it was going to be more of a local journey. Okay. I had a choice of when to accept it or not to accept. Yeah. Some of the time I'll be working from home. And so it was great. So it the two changes, change of career and change of my family environment, helped me a great deal.
Because you recognized the issue was, and then you actually said, right, okay, what can I do to change it? And was it challenging to change that behavior? Was there anything that was stood in the way? Or
it's career-wise, it was. I think it was a matter of realizing what I realized that traveling wasn't going to be something helpful to me, because also I was on insulin once I was diagnosed, and the first year I said to you, And because of insulin, I didn't understand it properly. Sometimes things went wrong. I would get a hypo, I'd be on the motorway, my blood glucose levels would drop all of a sudden. So I'll be panicking all the time. So I realized that traveling is not something I could do on long distance. So the change of career was, okay, what else can I do? And prior to that, actually, since about 1997, I'd been doing interpreting,
Yeah.
but it was just on the ad hoc basis, So, for example, if in the evening you got a call from the police or something, or over the weekend if the magistrate court called me, so every now and again I would do it.
Yeah.
So in 2000, I then decided to get a proper qualification. I had done some minor qualifications, but this was so from University of Bedford, De Montfort University. I gained my diploma in interpreting. So I took it as a proper, full-time career. So that was that change. Family issues, as I said, without going into too many details, it was a question of, okay, I've got to move away from that environment, and focus on my life.
Yeah.
I'd spent all my life serving others. Now was a time that I needed to think about myself, and I did, and I'm happy I did.
And
Because there's a price to pay for everything, as you know, every move, but it was a price worth paying, because it gave me peace of mind and it gave me a new direction.
and that's
And
what I
so,
was going to say, that there is a cost. It could be a benefit,
absolutely,
but it is a cost. But
yeah.
just so, what do you do now to lessen stress?